Hey everyone, welcome back to the Promised Land podcast with me, Scott Saunders, chatting through all things Manchester United. We're still in the midst of the international break, even though all the games have finished. We're still like 4 or 5 days away from Manchester United kicking a ball again in the Premier League. The Everton game is on Monday night. There's a whole Premier League weekend to come before United even kick off. So I just thought today might be a good time to, for one, say thank you to all of you who've been supporting the podcast, who've been watching the podcast or listening to the podcast for as long as you have been doing it. I really, really, really appreciate the support from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very, very much to everyone that engages with the channel, everyone who watches the channel, even if you're watching there silently or listening there silently, and it's just something that you get through in your week. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for all of your support. And I thought today, while we're still in this bit of a quiet time for Manchester United, I think we're hearing from Ruben Amorim on Friday, I thought now is a good time to look back at some questions, look back at some comments from you guys, say thank you, and address some of the comments, because there's some really good questions that I've been asked over the course of the last week or two on social channels. You can follow me on X, Instagram, TikTok at @_Scott Saunders, and obviously in the comment sections on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube as well for the Promised Land podcast too. There's loads of comments coming in and lots of good stuff. So I wanted to get into your comments today and say thank you to all of you guys. So hope that's okay. I haven't done one of these shows for a little while, and let's get into it. I will start with some thanks to you guys, and again, reinforce, now that we're in a, United have stabilized a bit, right? United are 8th in the league or whatever. I think they're 2 points off 3rd place. They're embarking on a run of 10 matches where they don't play a Big Six team. And yes, that can be usually the problem with this team. They don't beat teams that you should expect them to beat. And we'll watch that over the course of the winter period. We'll see how United have matured and see how they come through this period. But fingers crossed, like on paper, that good trend of form will hopefully continue, because there are teams that are theoretically easier to beat on the table for Manchester United next, starting with Everton at Old Trafford on Monday night. But we'll see what happens. But Carl Ed Power, love the pod, Scott. Really good. I really like the balanced, non-hyperbolic approach. I said that right? Yeah. And that's why I want to start the show with this, just to again reinforce it is easier now to see the bigger picture at United. It's easier now to see what Ruben Amorim is trying to do, even though he needs to win a few people over. Absolutely. Ineos probably do need to win a few people over. But I think over the last couple of years, it's been really tough because the results have been so bad, really, really tough to see where the light is at the end of the tunnel. I'm not saying that United are there yet, obviously not. But now that since the start of the season, results are starting to get better, and you're seeing 45, 60 minutes of good performances in certain matches, and you can see what is starting to be built by Amorim and by Ineos. You've seen over the summer, the transfers have made a lot of sense, and the players that have come in have performed really well. And I just wanted to say that I have tried, and I hope that this is what you guys appreciate. And obviously, Carl Ed Power there has said, I really like the balanced approach. That's what I always try and bring, and I'm glad that it resonates out there with some of you. It's maybe going to be easier to toe that line now if United's form does pick up, but it has been really difficult to do when the results have been terrible. I've got to be honest, it's been really hard because sentiment's been really terrible. People have thought that United are just in this never-ending spiral, and I had thought that was the case. I'd not known how United would have got out of the hole that they were in if the ownership and the football structure didn't change. And I've been very hot on it since the beginning. It's been a couple of years now, hasn't it? Since Ineos took charge, and obviously they put people in place. I think it was around Christmas Eve that the announcement was done that this was happening. It's been a rocky couple of years, obviously. And United, if anything, have gone backwards. But I think they've put the structures in place to be able to start building back up. And while it's been incredibly difficult over the last couple of years to kind of keep that positive and balanced tone, I hope you guys have appreciated it. And there's a lot of comments over the last few weeks of people who have expressed how they're relieved there's a bit of respite from the consistently negative framing around United in the media as well. And obviously, when United's results are bad, that amps up a lot. So Moses Suli, Will, Mary Kate, Paul, Vector142, Bailey Moran, Carl McCann, and plenty more of you as well, have all put in comments over the past few weeks that have been along those lines. So I really want to say thanks for your support, guys. And I'm glad that you appreciate, and this is what I try and be, right? I try and cut through the noise a little bit and keep a focus on the bigger picture. And again, the bigger picture is never too high, never too low. You've got to look at the end goal that we've been given by Ineos. Maybe not publicly, but they have been communicating this inside the club and it's leaked out. They have a target of getting to league championship contention by 2028. And that is 2 years away now. We're nearly at the end of 2025. It's absolutely crazy. But that's how I'm judging them. That's the metric I'm judging them on. And it's unrealistic for me to expect that United are just going to absolutely V-shape out of the poor form that they've been in without putting the structures in place first. Look, hopefully United can take advantage of the league this season and the competitiveness of it and use their lack of Champions League football to their own advantage. I've said this many, many times, So hopefully they can get a run and maybe get ahead of what their target is. But I appreciate that you guys let me know that you appreciate it. Just gives me more fire to keep going. So Atheon R4478 says, love to see so much content. It seems we have fewer and fewer creators that value calm analysis with no need for rage bait titles. I love your work and respect you for your not too high, not too low approach. Keep up the good work. I just want to say I was absolutely wrong about Bruno Fernandes coming good in this new team. Thankfully, I have no involvement with picking the team. Glory, glory, Man United. And Vector142 said on Bruno Fernandes as well, all I want is for Bruno to win the EPL and UCL with us as a 26-year-old fan who has no idea about how he became a United fan. That's an interesting one. Let me know how you guys became United fans. That's interesting stories I'm sure everyone's got. No one around me watches football. Probably Ronaldo Rooney, although I did not watch my first United game on TV until 2014. I felt very detached during the Jose era and loved the atmosphere Ole Gunnar Solskjaer created. I saw no future with Ten Hag, but Bruno made me fall back in love. More than that, he gave me the belief that we can win any game no matter the weekly chaos. There's a couple of comments in there on Bruno Fernandes as well, in amongst all of the what I've been talking about there, about the way I try and frame this podcast. And I realize that I've started there with picking out some comments that have said thank you back to me. But again, I just wanted to nail home that it is really important to stay never too high, never too low. And you need to be patient. And we've been a hell of a lot more patient than anybody really expected to have to be. But this is the best way to go about it for me, rather than falling down into the traps of, well, United lost this game or United didn't do this in this game and the manager has to be sacked because of that. I think it's important. You guys know, if you've been listening to this podcast any amount of time, you know my stance on Amorim, you know my stance on patience and this kind of thing. But I mentioned the next 5 to 10 games, and I may do an episode in a bit more depth about this, on my thoughts about this run coming up, but maybe after the Ruben Amorim press conference. We'll see what happens, but maybe over the next couple of days. But Rahul Ramdas has said, our next 10 Premier League games have no Big Six opposition. I expect at least 20 points out of 30, ideally closer to 25. I think I would maybe change that word expect to hope for. I think that's probably the best way to go. Not expecting. Although you can argue, and I've said this myself, I suppose, that you should place more expectation on United now because they need to start delivering. And I've said it so many times, no excuse really for them not to turn up and start putting in performances and start picking up more points because they don't have Europe. They will have more of an advantage than most teams. So maybe, I think the expect word is a strong word, which maybe brings about a reaction to it if United don't achieve that of, well, they're failing then, I think maybe there's a line to toe there. But David Bullen says 3 wins and 2 draws, and we were ahead in those games too. I think he's talking about the last few games that United have been playing in. Lots to be happy about considering where we've been for the past few years. There are definitely some green shoots there. Finn Bauer says, in a season where anyone can drop points against anyone else, we saw what an impact winning 3 in a row had on our competitiveness in the league. We sort of got away with the 2 draws as results elsewhere went our way. Hopefully the manager and players grasp the opportunity. That's for me, that's kind of where I am. Hopefully they do grasp the opportunity. But again, this is the point. If everybody is out there continuing to beat each other and take points off each other, and United have this run of games against teams for the most part that are in the bottom half of the league, I think, or are deemed weaker opposition, they should theoretically be able to move up the table with a bit more speed than the other teams. I don't know. Let's just see how it goes. But Dom or Pulp1 says, all United would 100% start our easy fixture list with a last-minute loss or draw just to zap any split of optimism we had. Then they win the next game just to rub it in. They have made us suffer. At times, I wonder if it's a team or a mass social experiment. And you're not alone there, man. You are absolutely not alone there. It is really, look, it's been so tough. Absolutely so tough to follow along with this team. And every time you do build up a bit of hope, they tend to let you down a little bit. But I think a real measure of the maturity of this team and how good a grasp Ruben Amorim's getting on them is how they do in these games. His message all the time is, we need to turn up for Liverpool away like we turn up for Everton at home, or like we turn up for Fulham at home, or teams like that. I was trying to think of a newly promoted team there for a second, but you get what I mean. I think that's one of Ruben Amorim's big messages, is getting games like the ones that are coming up, getting them right, getting the application right, application to the system, effort levels, fighting for every ball. That is what is going to make the difference for United going into every game. And because they don't have these European matches, they have that energy, surely. They have a big squad as well that aren't picking up too many injuries, touch wood. So they should be able to rotate, fingers crossed, even though he doesn't really want to, or bring players into the game so they can hopefully not see big drop-offs like we have seen in recent matches where Casemiro's gone off the pitch. But look, we'll see. Right, I'm going to talk about the midfield because I think there's some really good, interesting questions here. And let's just get into them, shall we? I think there's just one here that I need to pull up. Julia said the other day on X, what are your thoughts about Lisandro Martinez playing as a 6 if healthy? And Steve Hug 83 also said, when Martinez is fit again, he can rotate in midfield with Casemiro. We also have guys like Mazraoui who can play in there. Until we bring in 2 midfielders, it's going to be a problem. So what do I think about this? I have thought in the past that Lisandro Martinez playing in midfield was a thing that I would like to see. Nowadays, I'm not entirely sure it is the right thing to do because, look, maybe it would work. I would be curious. I would be curious to see this. Although I think the thing for me is, and what I thought about Martinez playing in midfield was when Erik ten Hag was there, when he was playing a 3 in midfield, when he had a 6 and 2 8s or whatever the setup was, a 6, 8 and a 10, I thought that Martinez could have been the anchor in that system to be able to, shuffle around and cover space. And I think the dynamic of playing a player like Martinez in there after he's just come off the back of a serious injury as well, knowing the engine he will have to get around the pitch, knowing what he brings at left centre back as well and how important he is. And I don't know when he's going to be back starting matches regularly for United. We'll wait and see. The dynamic with Luke Shaw is really interesting as well. And I think really, if Luke Shaw's fit and Lisandro Martinez is fit, you probably expect that both of those are playing in the same team. And I've gone on record and said that people are split on this, but Luke Shaw playing at left wing back, which is, in his own words from a recent interview, his favoured position. Maybe I'd like to see that. And maybe that's the way that I see it going. It doesn't solve the midfield issue problem, but I think my position on Martinez is this, really. I've been curious in the past to see him as a 6, and I still am. But I have a lot more reservations about him playing in that role now in this system than I did when United were playing a 3 in midfield. That's kind of where I come from on this. And look, maybe I'll be wrong, but him coming off the back of a serious injury, I think maybe I wouldn't expect to see it. I wouldn't expect to see it happen. Maybe if United had a manager who played a 3 in midfield, then I could be more open to it and see it happening. But I don't think we're going to see it just off the top of my head at the moment. I don't think so. And I think the system doesn't really work for him. And I still think, look, United need to sign 2 or 3 midfielders over the course of 2026 as well. So Martinez for me, left centre back, I think. And let's move on. Continuing with the midfield and more of your comments. Jonathan Ball said, to be honest, my preference, this is talking about targets in midfield now. So I think these are from recent shows I've done about midfielders, but Jonathan Ball has said, to be honest, my preference would be Anderson and Baleba. So if to pick 2, who would your preference be? Anderson and Baleba. But should Ineos decide their preferences are, say, Gomes and Stiller, I'd be more than happy. After all, I was among the clamour that loved Alexis Sanchez, Jadon Sancho, and Ronaldo, so screw me and all the armchair toxic critics. If players like Gomes are thought to be the answer, Ineos, or more importantly, Vivel, Wilcox, and Barada have shown me they're football people who know what they're doing. That's a really important comment. Really good, really important comment. I think what Ineos have done and what these people have done with the signings in the summer, and maybe the signings last summer as well, with more of a mixed bag. Ugarte, obviously, it's not going well for him at the moment. Terrible game against the US for Uruguay on the international break as well. But what they have done is really start to show that they have changed United's transfer strategy and have changed the way that United operate in the transfer market. And they're not going for these Ronaldo names anymore, or 75 million Jadon Sancho kind of names, or Alexis Sanchez because he did really well for Arsenal. He's at the end of his tether. That they've told us that they're going to be different on transfers. They've signed a hell of a lot of young players as well that we haven't really seen funnel into the first team, but are doing well at youth levels. That's the approach here. It's obviously signing proven Premier League players as well who are at good ages. Sanchez was obviously a proven Premier League player at the time, but was pushing 30 when he signed, right? And then instead you've got Brian Mbeumo and Mateus Cunha at age 25, 26 on not massive money that completely screws over your wage bill. There's differences in approach. And as Jonathan is saying here, he believes more in Ineos and what they're doing. So I think that is the right approach to go with. And I suppose proof that if you just give it time and a bit of patience, that these people can win you round. And it seems to have won Jonathan round. Robbie Bob Rob. Hello, mate. On João Gomes says, what worries me about your friend's description is that he could easily be describing Ugarte in that exact sentence. So what I said there was, I think my mate Paul, who's a Wolves fan, described João Gomes as a bulldog. And I came across on that show as pretty high on João Gomes for the right price. I think I'll say that again. If we're looking at 40 million quid in January, which I don't know if is going to be the case, that could probably be a player who, if it works, may not necessarily always be first choice, and maybe you still need to go and sign 2 midfielders in the summer, but that can be a player that works in your rotation. And you need that energy. And Paul said about the description of a bulldog, and obviously you see that comparison with Mamadou Ugarte, and Ugarte's transfer has gone terribly. But I think the one thing I would say is, while the comparisons are probably right, Ugarte didn't have Premier League experience at the time. João Gomes has about 3 years of Premier League experience playing for a team that, and excelling, I suppose, for a team that isn't very good. So theoretically, he already knows the pace of the league. He already knows the tenacity you need to be at for the league. And if United like him and there's other teams that like him, then maybe it's less of a risk than Mamadou Ugarte was. Jamie Sims says, I'm very sorry to be like this because I don't like to be lots of people on the internet who just try and find fault and be a nuisance. But finding players that suit the team and identifying a profile is the same thing. But you said that they are not buying players based on profile to suit the team. Maybe it's a misunderstanding between words. I would use the word profile to mean the specifics of a player. Therefore, those specifics would be selected to benefit the team. So maybe your understanding of the word profile is different to mine. Apologies again. I don't want to be a weirdo who causes trouble. That's fine, mate. Absolutely no problem at all. I think for me, yeah, maybe I'm getting the words, I'm using the words interchangeably there. So I think what you've said there is completely right. And I'm not going to contest that or whatever. Maybe I didn't think closely enough or strongly enough about the differences in semantics there. So I'm completely with you. Harish says, I think Gallagher on a permanent will also make sense because Ugarte will definitely be someone Atletico Madrid could be interested in. He's very much a Simeone type player. There can be a potential swap deal there. Look, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think that Atletico Madrid are going to come out and just chuck a bunch of money down on the table for Mamadou Ugarte, but theoretically, the type of player that Ugarte is, the type of manager that Simeone is, the style of football that he plays, the football that he likes, theoretically, it does make a lot of sense. So maybe there's something there on Conor Gallagher. We'll see. And like a special shout here to Fred Cranham, who has been absolutely fantastic for the YouTube channel specifically over the past few weeks and few months. really, really great support from you, Fred. So I really want to say to you specifically, thank you very much for super chats and donations. I really, really appreciate those. And I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful. And I see you commenting on a bunch of the stuff that I put out, whether that's the shorts that are going out or whether that is the YouTube videos as well. I do see your comments, and I wanted to call out one of your comments here and just say thank you again. So really appreciate it. With Casemiro not doing a full shift, I agree. Conor Gallagher could be a viable loan option, and Gomes could be a Brighton-like signing. Why do we pursue overpriced players when there's opportunities for cheaper alternatives that would strengthen the squad? Look, yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a market for United which we always want the shiny toy, right? We always want the player that is absolutely killing it and excelling at their club, and you have to pick the best player from a certain team. And they've definitely done that with Brian Mbeumo, Mateus Cunha as well. And maybe there will be others to come along. But I think the unshiny, the not so popular choices as well, I would like to see United go out there and bring in players that you can maybe think, well, I don't understand that one all that much. But because they've seen something in that player, they can add an extra quality to the team that maybe they don't have or something like that. Even if they're unfashionable, I do want to see those players being brought in, because that gives you an idea that the people at the top know exactly what this team needs and are finding unfashionable and maybe bargain players to be able to bring in that they can either flip for profit later or get more out of. That is something I need the football club to do, something I would like to see the football club to do as well. And I think the big comment that this came from Rugby Itch on X the other day. I think I also subscribed to the YouTube channel. So thanks again, mate, for this. And this is probably what I'm going to title the show. From the central midfielders listed below, curious to know how you would currently rank them in terms of priority and fit for Manchester United. Adam Wharton, Carlos Baleba, Elliot Anderson, and João Gomes as well. Now, Adam Wharton's a big favourite, but I will play the game here. Adam Wharton's a big favourite. I really think Adam Wharton's really good, but maybe this would be my list. And I think I'm going to try and bring in here this. I'm not thinking, maybe I'm adding something to your question in the sense of how much I think these players will cost. So I'm trying to balance that the expected cost of these players and the fits of the team that I think United need. And Adam Wharton's ball quality is fantastic, but I do have some concerns about the physical level, about the combative nature of him in comparison to some of the others that are in there. I think United need that extra competitive edge. And I think Adam Wharton is going to be incredibly, incredibly expensive, really. And maybe Crystal Palace have some kind of agreement in there, gentleman's agreement in there with Adam Wharton. And I don't doubt United are interested in him. And look, if he did turn up at United and they went for him, I would absolutely be fine with that. I'm no questions asked at all. Kind of like the comment that I just read out from Jonathan talking about what Ineos decide, I'll get behind it. That's very much where I am as well. If they decide on Adam Wharton, he's still a fantastic football player. I just think I look at him and I think United need more bite in midfield than that, to me. They do need ball quality in there as well, but I think you need to maybe add that in your rotation. So for me, I'll actually put Adam Wharton fourth out of those, because I think he's going to cost 70, 80 million quid. And he's got that. It doesn't strike me as, in comparison to Elliot Anderson and Carlos Baleba, doesn't strike me as the kind of physical specimen in there that I think the two in midfield needs for United to be the best team that they can become. So that's why I put Wharton bottom of the list. It's probably not a super popular thing to say, because I know there's a lot of people out there that would very much put Wharton number one, but that's just the way that I'm coming at it. I think fantastic footballer, but just with cost and with the one drawback physically, I think maybe fourth. João Gomes for price point is probably third. João Gomes for price point. And I don't think, when I speak about João Gomes, I don't think that he would be a player that I think of as the absolute first choice going into every single match if he did sign. I think this would be very much a rotational midfield option within the next 18 months, even if he does come in and start games frequently for the next 6 or something like that. That's where I think United will get to with him. And United do need more depth, as I've said. So I put Wharton in fourth because of prohibitive price and because of physical concerns, I suppose, even though he's got fantastic on-the-ball quality. João Gomes, just for the tenacity and for the price point, I think I would put slightly above him. Then I would probably put, I'm going to stick Elliot Anderson at number 2 still, because I don't know what price United will get him for if they do end up getting him. I think it'd be a bit of a negotiation with Forest. And for me, just the fact that United actually identified Carlos Baleba to start with in the summer as the guy that they wanted and still have that interest now, I'll probably still put him at number 1 for me, even though he's had 10 or 11 matches which have been well under expectation of him. And I do have some concerns about the fact that he's not been able to replicate the form that he did last season because of the interest in him. But at the same time, I think the fact that United went for him to start with and identified that that was the kind of player that they wanted in there tells me that if that's your top priority and you still want it to happen regardless of the form, I think maybe he's probably the best fit in there. When I put Baleba next to if United signed Baleba only, I think the midfield could be a hell of a lot better next season with him in there with the current options. Let me just say that. So whether that's next to Bruno Fernandes or whether that's next to Kobbie Mainoo or whether that's next to Casemiro for some certain matches as well, you kind of lose that creative aspect with playing them two together. But I think Baleba plus Mainoo or Baleba plus Bruno Fernandes, if Bruno stays, if you're going to sign one, I think it's him to me. With Elliot Anderson, I think that's maybe a second priority. With João Gomes, I think maybe that's more of a squad rotational priority. And with Adam Wharton as well, I think you could probably sign him too, but you would still need that physicality alongside him. That's kind of what I think and how I would rank them. So I would put Carlos Baleba number 1, Elliot Anderson number 2, João Gomes number 3, and Adam Wharton as number 4. Now, that's not a super popular opinion, I don't think, but that's just the way that I'm thinking. When it comes to this United midfield and what I think it needs, that's my take. A note on Kobbie Mainoo, long comment here from I'm sure you're wrong. I'm quite sure you're wrong. I'm a Manchester United fan and been a United fan since 98-99. It all started after Jamaica qualified for the World Cup, and unfortunate result the other day, but still in the playoffs, I think, for Jamaica. Wales have been drawn against... Who did they get, actually? Bosnia in the semi-final with a potential final at home in Cardiff against Italy or Northern Ireland. So I watched that draw before I started recording this podcast. So fingers crossed Wales can do it and Cardiff can do the job again. But hopefully Jamaica can make it as well. When David Beckham was being vilified for that red card against Diego Simeone and people were burning his jersey, that's when I began following United. Beckham led me there. And it goes on to basically say that this is a comment about Kobbie Mainoo. I don't care who it is. I just want the team to do well. When United are winning, my weekends are great. My weekdays are great because I can go online without feeling frustrated, support the manager and support the club. No player deserves more backing than the manager. So I think I know what you're getting at here. I've said numerous times that I don't want to see Kobbie Mainoo sold. And I'm not alone in that, but I do agree with this as well. Now, I think it would be a pretty damning indictment on United if they did look at Mainoo and just take the money on him, given the promise that he does have. But the comment goes on to say, when things become untenable, then fine, you move on. But until then, I don't question what a manager does. And I'm not really questioning this either. What I'm saying is I would like to see Mainoo being given more opportunity and more minutes and replacing Bruno Fernandes more often. If Bruno's the first choice in that 8 position, Mainoo should at least get a fighting chance in matches to be able to show himself. And it's happened more frequently over the last few games than it did at the start of the season, but obviously still not getting enough minutes. Another question Sir Alex Ferguson, and among the post-Ferguson managers, the only one I've really rated are Ferguson himself, Jose, and now Amorim. And it goes on to say, Kobbie Mainoo isn't as good as people make him out to be. You can see the type of players the manager wants, high intensity, strong and quick, and Mainoo slows the game down. Yeah, he scored that cup final goal, but the manager got fired right after. Garnacho wasn't there either. And performing in La Liga doesn't mean you're going to perform in the manager's system. We all saw that Marcus Rashford did that over the last couple of years. He only had 1 season before his big contract, and since then he's done nothing. So I think basically the comment is trying to get to the point of trust the manager and trust the manager's judgment. And what we don't, we're not able to believe Ruben Amorim is backing Kobbie Mainoo because he's not playing him all that much. But what he's saying in the media is he thinks he's a really good player and he has things to work on before he introduces him to the team. I've said a few times that I think long term, I would like Kobbie Mainoo to be the successor to Bruno Fernandes if he does end up leaving. And we'll see whether that actually happens or if Mainoo leaves the club in January and eventually leaves the club permanently. I don't know what happens there. But there has been, and maybe I'm a bit guilty of this and not getting it across myself, I've been very much in the camp of don't let Mainoo go, whatever happens. I do really, really, really want him to stay. But at the same time, I do agree with this point. Like, if the manager isn't picking him for a specific reason, then you've got to kind of believe that the manager is doing what he believes in and it's the right thing to do for the team. We've seen when Mainoo's come on in certain matches, as the comment said there, slowed the game down or whatever. When he came on for Casemiro against Brighton, not putting it all on him, but Casemiro went off the pitch and United lost control of the game for a little while before they ended up winning it at the end. So this is an important point to stress, I suppose. And as much as I don't necessarily agree with the line, Kobbie isn't as good as people make him out to be, I think he has weaknesses in his game which need to be addressed. But I also think if you put him in a three-man midfield at Manchester City, for example, he would be fantastic. I think it's the system that is letting him down. Some people would prefer that Ruben Amorim changes his system to accommodate Kobbie Mainoo. I don't think that should be the case either. I think this is, you got to remember, he's only 20 years old or whatever it is. He's still got his entire career ahead of him. And while he might want to go to the World Cup this summer, he's still got 15 years left of his career. And that could still be at Manchester United. Just might have to be patient for a little while. So that's, I'm not putting Kobbie Mainoo or a player over the club at all there. But I would like to see him excel in this United first team. And I think if United did end up selling him, he would probably make them regret selling him somewhere else because he would be really, really good. That's just my take on it. But I'm not saying play him at all costs and I'm going to turn against the manager. That's not how I'm coming across at all, or trying to anyway. And on the manager himself, just a quick section towards the end now. Some of you guys, I've asked you for your comments on Ruben Amorim and your take on him just past his 1 year anniversary. Devil Talk MUFC said, I've always valued your perspective going back to the 90 min days. My core issue with the arguments for keeping the manager is that their foundation is hypotheticals and hope rather than tangible evidence. Everything we've actually seen on the pitch suggests he isn't the right person for the job. Furthermore, I disagree with the notion that critics are holding the team back to the impossible standard of the Ferguson era. The realistic middle ground is simply being a competent, well-organized team, a level we failed to consistently reach under this leadership. Now, the line about my core issue with the arguments for keeping the manager is that their foundation is hypotheticals and hope rather than tangible evidence. Well, yes, like obviously, and that's been the popular line to go around as a justification to say the manager should go because he's not proven it yet. But you will be in that camp if you sack the manager and get a new manager. You know, my point is just give the guy the season. We've not had enough evidence out of him yet, but there's more suggestion in recent matches that we are getting better evidence that the team is moving forward. You can see the holes in this team straight away. I can see them. Everybody can see them. But the way that United have addressed the holes that were there previously, they've done it well. And you can see that they are adding extra layers to the team in terms of making them better. There's still some left to address. They couldn't do them all in the summer. So I'm willing to be patient. That's where I sit with this. And patience is it's an incredible quality that not many people have anymore. Everyone wants United to be the absolute, to be moving in the right direction. But this isn't going to just magically fix. And again, I'm coming back to this other point of United are aiming towards a goal of 2028 to get competing for titles again. So that tells me that if they've hired this manager on a contract at a similar length, I think it's up until 2027 with a further year extra option, that tells me that they're looking at this manager with that time frame in mind. So really, would it be realistic for me to come on here and say that Ruben Amorim has to go right now because they are 2 points off third place? No, it doesn't. It doesn't work for me like that. That's just not my take. But there's another one from the dude. If it takes this many excuses, maybe just maybe this is not it. On the 1-year Amorim anniversary episode that I did, they're not excuses, man. They're not excuses. They're just being realistic about the football club. Honestly, if you think they're excuses, you can change the manager and you can still realize that the problems that are there are still there. They might change the formation or whatever, but I truly think that the biggest thing about this United team, and he said it in another interview again recently, is application, physicality, all of this. They need to be changed and addressed for any manager to succeed here. That's my take on this. JYT 2025 says, I just don't like the 5 at the back. I hope we'll change it. That's fine. You know, I don't like the 5 at the back either, really. I've said this many times. If there was a manager out there that just played 4-3-3, I'd be great with it. But I'm not going to ask Ruben Amorim to change just because I don't like the formation or the wing-backs. Played out 148 says, please recall that Amorim did not want to leave Sporting during the season and was given a now or never ultimatum by Ineos. Last season was Ineos not even having their feet under the table. The problems at United for the last 12 years will never be solved in a season. Kind of touching on what I said in a comment just a couple of minutes ago. Ralph's surgery at the open heart told us how deep the problem was. Many problematic players have been jettisoned by Amorim. The new players have the right mentality. This is early days in a rebuild. And that sums up the thing I was just saying just now, sums up how I feel about this. That's the best mentality to go into this with for me. Ray Jugo says, one of the most balanced analysis of United's current status. Amorim is making the most of players that he currently has. Midfield is a definite problem in terms of needing new players, but Amorim has managed to turn the pairing of Bruno and Casemiro into a solid pair. And Casemiro has had a brilliant last few weeks and is being talked up. I'd love to see this week that I think Bruno Guimaraes and Mateus Cunha have been talking about how much they love Casemiro. It's so nice to see Casemiro coming back from the pits, really, and proving people wrong. I hope he can continue this and United can still get the best out of him for the season ahead or until the end of his United career. At the least, he's got 8 months left on his contract, and we'll see what happens with him. Final comment from Chrissy Hilton 4514 is Ruben has said in the past he needs the players to understand the basics before he starts changing anything. And that's what we're seeing now. It's not the system. Ruben Amorim, his system is adaptable during games, and players are understanding that now. Even when we've won games, pundits are still saying yes, but this system won't work. They still have to throw in a bit of negative. It's like a backhanded compliment. The best thing and the best way that United can go about stopping the criticism coming in is by winning matches. Amorim has said it numerous times, and again, he said it in another interview. It's not the system, it's the way that we play. It's not the system. And I'm very much with him on that, and I have been with him on that as well, even while it's been unpopular to say at times. But yeah, look, so many comments there, guys. There's more in there that I've missed out as well. Maybe I've gone on a bit too long for my usual half hour, but this is approaching 40 minutes or whatever it is. I want to say thank you to everyone that has got in touch in the comments. Thank you to everyone who listens to, downloads the podcast or streams it on YouTube or does whatever. If you could like the videos, keep the comments coming in. Give a 5-star review on audio platforms as well. Maybe hit the notification bell as well so you never miss a show. Usually they come out in the afternoons. But that may change as I move forward to hopefully when we enter a busier part of the season, maybe there'll be more to come from me, hopefully. But yeah, I really appreciate all your support, guys. And thanks so much for the comments. I hope this episode was something a little bit different, but I just want to say thank you to everyone that gets involved. Thank you for everyone that stays in touch. And I really appreciate it. Keep them coming, and I will keep these podcasts coming as well if you like them. But until next time, everyone, still time, and I'll be back before United play against Everton. But thanks very much for listening and for watching. See you soon for another episode, and get in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on anything that I've spoken about in this episode. See you soon.